And if it's a spiritual war, that means it's a global war, and they're going to attack anyone that sides with the good and with God. And that's really what this is all boiling around.
Everything that we do needs to come from love. Abraham also went to war and slayed thousands with his own hands. But if he prayed for them and loved them, then we can only assume that him going to war against them, fighting them, and even killing them was also from a place of love and compassion for them.
Maybe light, love, and blessing is actually eviscerating the evil.
Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of anti-Israel propaganda and Jew hatred, you should always be connected to the land and people of Israel. And we could not be more excited that we're back together after what feels like an eternity. I think it's been about a month since we've all been here with Jeremy Gimpel, Ari Abramowitz, both rabbis from Judea, Joshua Waller, obviously. So good to have you all with us once again. It's good to be back together again. Hopefully we'll get back in the weekly rotation and not miss too many upcoming shows. Guys, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you follow along. Love to hear from you in the comment section. You don't want to miss out. There's so much happening in the world right now. And obviously, as I went to bed last night, seeing the news about the mass shooting in America, and how that's related to Israel and the Jewish people. We're going to definitely get into that. So much else, just like hardly can keep up with the news, right? It seems like so much happening all at the same time. At the same time, we're in a very special time on the Hebrew calendar and the Jewish calendar. I think we'll save that for the end of the show. Jeremy always brings the fire with the Torah and insights from Judaism. But guys, hang on tight. It's going to be a good show today. So, couple of maybe, I mean, I hate to call anything small, like it's nothing small, but like, let's just run through some stuff that's been happening. Jeremy, you mentioned this about the Iranian embassy now getting kicked out of Australia. Is that actually happening, or the ambassador?
Well, there was a synagogue in Melbourne, Australia that was firebombed. And Australia went and did an investigation, and they found that Iran was actually the one backing, planning, and funding the firebombing of a synagogue in Melbourne, Australia. And there's just a few things to say about that. The first is the same people that just chew up, swallow, and take all the Hamas statistics for granted are questioning Australia's official government investigation. And the second point is that the Shiite Muslim world is really located, centered in Iran. And when they say globalize the Intifada, and they're now funding attacking Jewish synagogues in Australia, they're really sending out a message that the war against the Jewish people is on. And that's a real, that's a red line that's now officially been crossed. So much so that Australia kicked out the ambassador from Australia. They're like severing ties.
Yeah, but I was at the dentist yesterday. And when you're at the dentist and he says a thing to you, you want to respond, but you can't.
But you can't, exactly.
Right? And so he was saying this is a really good development that Australia is throwing that up. And in my mind, that I couldn't articulate because he had a thing. And they just blocked the visa of Hillel Fold.
Right.
And Simcha Rothman, a Knesset member, they blocked his visa.
Minister, yeah.
Why did they block Hillel Fold's visa? They said hate content. What did he say? He compared Hamas to Nazis, right? Which is a fair comparison, but falls a little bit short because at least the Nazis hid their crimes and didn't film it and broadcast it with joy and glee. So if they're not understanding the correlation and the connection between Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and the global jihad, if they're going to compartmentalize in a way that where they lose the entire picture, then what good does it really do?
Yeah.
They're not seeing the connection, and that's what it is. Israel is the tip of the spear in the battle against the global jihad, which is why people on the one hand try to fight their own little mini battles with the terrorists, but aren't really understanding the greater picture here.
I know you wanted to talk about a few other little things, but could we add Ilhan Omar maybe to that list of
Ilhan.
Ilhan.
Yeah,
Ilhan. Ilhan is like
Ilhan.
a very strong Jewish name. It means a tree.
right? No, not that.
Yeah. Ilhan Omar.
Ilhan.
What about her?
Well, you're talking about this line of jihad, kind of global jihad. I don't know. She's going pretty nuts right now, saying in America, trying to bring any connections.
Well, the shooting that happened in her district.
Yeah, no, and that's why she's going. She's blaming guns.
Let me say two quick things about Australia. Number one, my thought is, it's interesting to now know that Iran's long arm is all the way in Australia. Like we all knew Iran is funding, Lebanon, Hezbollah, Syria, Yemen, right? Like Hamas in Gaza, agents in Judea and Samaria. Like we all knew that, but to know that they're actually all the way in Australia, it's not surprising. It's not shocking, but where are they not, right? Like where is that head of the snake not reaching?
Michigan.
The second,
I'm just keep throwing it out because it seems pretty obvious to me.
right? I mean, the second thing that's interesting is Australia has also announced that they're prepared to recognize a Palestinian state in September. So it's like it feels like you have this push-pull scenario. Like, what is happening? We have some Australians here with us volunteering right now. We all know there's like really amazing pro-Israel people in Australia, but there's also massive demonstrations. I think tens of thousands of people gathering against Israel in Australia on a weekly basis.
You saw what's happening in Greece as well. I mean, it's not just going on in Australia. Greece is being massive rallies and attacks happening there. Talk about firebombing. They also, I believe it was the embassy, massive attack there with pretty serious developments there where it's unofficial, but it seems like they are pulling Israelis from there as well.
Well, what's happening right now is that the war that was, at least at the beginning stages, well, this is about land, this is about politics, it's about Gaza, it's about the Hamas. It's like, oh no, this is a spiritual war. This is a spiritual enemy. And if it's a spiritual war, that means it's a global war. And they're going to attack anyone that sides with the good and with God. And that's really what this is all boiling around. Who are the people that love life? Who are the people that love God? And who are the people that are literally trying to bring chaos, destruction, and death to the world?
And I think that that's really your department, guys. Your department is to be a strong voice to the nations. I think our department is too often I'm meeting with all of these activists and they're like, we don't need tens of millions, we need hundreds of millions of dollars to change Israel's image to the world. How about $0? How about not changing Israel's image at all? How about changing our soul? How about looking within and actually doing what we need to do? One of the most pivotal points, I think, in this entire war was, the most recent war that we're in was when Israel was going for that final, we had the Ayatollah on his knees, Agag on his knees, Amalek on his knees. We're about to strike the final blow. And then Trump says, don't do it. Turn around, Israel. People's like, oh, he's got power. He's got influence. So what did we essentially say? We fear flesh and blood more than the God of Israel who's with us. We needed to go in. And what now? What's happening now? The next day, there was a terrorist attack in Gush Etzion and a Jew was killed. And in my heart, I knew it's because we didn't kill the Ayatollah. If we had wiped him off the face of the earth, that Jew wouldn't have been killed. This whole world would be different. Look what Putin just said right now.
Если завтра Израиль с помощью США или без помощи США просто убивает Хаминеи, какая будет ваша реакция и реакция России?
Я надеюсь, что это будет самым правильным ответом на ваш вопрос. Я даже обсуждать такой возможности не желаю. Не хочу.
Самый одновременно, откровенно это обсуждать. Господин Трамп, господин Нетаньяху.
Даже обсуждать этого не хочу.
We had our opportunity, right? China, Russia, the whole world was watching. Nobody was getting involved. They weren't really prepared for America to get involved to such a degree. They weren't prepared for Israel's massive lion-like roar and pounce. And we had our opportunity then.
Yeah.
We had our opportunity then. They would have done nothing then. Now they've been able to regroup, reassess, understand the America-Israel alliance and capabilities and willingness to fight. And we're dealing with a different world now. We need to understand, as far as Israel is concerned, our only hope, our only consideration should be how we appear in the eyes of God, putting our faith in the eyes of God and not in flesh and blood. It's one or the other. You're going to have fear in this world. Everybody will have fear. It's up to us to decide, is it fear of God or fear of man? And when Israel does our piece, we won't need to put one shekel into PR. Right? Because that is the only PR we need.
Yeah, the fear of man at this point is just so absurd. They're now saying that Hamas is preventing the Gazans from leaving Gaza City as the IDF is trying to go into Gaza City. A Hamas spokesman came out saying that we are trying to sacrifice our elderly and our children on the global stage for the world to see. And then Israel's getting blamed for genocide as the Hamas are declaring that that's what they want to do. And at the same time, Yemen, the Hamas, Lebanon, Iran, 100% 90% of their missiles were aimed at civilians and the world was totally quiet.
Right.
And so what are we looking at the world for? Why don't we just do what's right, what's moral, what's true in the eyes of God, and just do what needs to be done and stop looking to the world who's so obviously hypocritical?
You know, I was just watching this video by Nick Fuentes. We don't need to play it. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But, you know, I'm listening to what he's saying, and then Candace Owens, and there's this impulse when you're gaslit. There's this impulse when you're accused of the most absurd things to respond to that.
Right.
But when you do, then you get lost in this whole bickery. No, but it's this, and this Talmud verse says that, rather than go to the underlying essence of what it's about. But so much of mainstream media is saying Israel only launched this war. They allowed October 7th to happen in order for Israel to go in and take Gaza. I'm old enough to remember when I was lifted up by IDF soldiers and carried out of Gaza. I don't know any other nation that has ever done such a thing, where Israel the only ethnic cleansing that's ever happened in this region, by Jews at least, has been Israel doing ethnic cleansing to their own people, pulling every Jew out of Gaza.
Right.
In order to just say, we don't want to have anything to do with this. And they're saying, oh, we allowed that to happen so we could conquer Gaza? Right. It's just so absurd that you need to respond.
Right.
But then you respond and then you're lost in the whole thing.
Here's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the bigger axis that you just outlined just a minute ago. What happens when Trump, and you talked about the airplanes being turned around, and I'm also thinking, what happens when the IDF hits a hospital intentionally, because hospitals are being used in Gaza as platforms to attack IDF soldiers, but when they attack, everybody saw that video. That was massive. That's what everybody's talking about now. Trump even came out and said, I'm mad about that. I'm mad about that strike that hit the hospital that took out the camera that was watching IDF soldiers, this whole thing. But there was 6 Hamas members there, but there was a journalist. Oh man. Everybody's mad about it.
A terrorist wearing a press jacket.
A Hamas
Yeah,
compound.
terrorist marriage. Right.
Let's just
exactly.
make sure it's clear. It was a Hamas compound being used to attack IDF soldiers.
But Trump says he's mad about it because the international press goes out as hospital. How old is that?
Of course it's a hospital.
The world still believes it. But here's what I'm worried about. The bigger axis, if we're relying on Trump, who turned the planes around that were headed to take out the Agog, as you said, and we're relying on the Trump who says when you kill Hamas members using a hospital against you, he's mad about it. That's not very stable to me. And we need to wake the world up of Israel's true reality on the ground here. And if that is the strength, and I think there's something deeper on this, a little bit stronger than what maybe the globe is seeing, I hope, against this axis of Iran that is forming a deep tie with not only Russia, it's got to be bigger than that. Who else is there? And we can only assume greater ties with the rest of the world that's along that axis, whether that's China or if that's North Korea. It's really a huge axis. And Israel is now standing alone somewhat in many of these cases as it relies on truly defeating their enemies.
Well, it's just a matter of time. Meaning right now, a poll just came out saying that most of the Generation Z in America support Hamas over Israel. Not like support the Gazans or the Palestinians, quote unquote, Hamas. And so you're just waiting for, Trump is not going to last as president forever. Who knows who the next president is going to be? Right. And ultimately, our destiny is to stand alone. So why don't we just own it right now? Why don't we just stand alone already now and do what needs to be done?
Well, so that's the argument. What do we hear on the news? Genocide, genocide, genocide. Meanwhile, our experience here in Israel is that we're burying our sons, our daughters, our neighbors, our friends, the most excellent of our every diamond, they're diamonds, and we're putting them in the ground because they're going into Gaza and being shot and being booby-trapped and being killed. Our partner's son has a shrapnel in his eye, his face was blown off. If we wanted to commit genocide, there wouldn't be one toenail of a Jew that would hurt because we would just go in and decimate them. Like that is just so obvious. So, but let's just take a second, take a step back and ask, is there some merit to what the world is saying about Israel? They're saying the war you're fighting. Maybe it's a mistake that the war is still happening. Why are we letting this war still happen? The sages of Israel said years ago, great depth and wisdom. He who is merciful to the evil, in the end will be evil to the merciful. Okay, we have a population there in Gaza. 70% of the murder and the baby decapitations was just Civilians, Gazan civilians that voted in Hamas, whose charter is genocide. Like, why are we not going in and eviscerating them? Like I've said before.
There he goes again.
You know, but it's really tragic because I say we need to go into our prisons, take the top 10 Hamas leaders, execute them in a humiliating way as we broadcast that to Gaza and say, this is what's going to happen if you don't send our hostages out and we're declaring sovereignty over all of Gaza. People are like, wow, that guy's a warmonger. They don't know me. I'm a lover of humanity. I'm a medical clown. I go to hospitals to make kids laugh. I love all of humanity. But if you need to go to protect the daughters of Israel from being raped and murdered and decapitated all over the world, we need to see evil and to fight it with courage and moral clarity and conviction. And maybe those college kids in Generation Z will look at us and say, oh, wait a second, there's conviction there. They look at Hamas and they're inspired by the fact that they at least they believe in something, right? And they see the wishy-washy government of Israel playing politics. Why did Netanyahu just recognize the Armenian genocide? Why? Why didn't he do it before?
Right.
Because Turkey and political ties. And what is this political ties thing? We are a nation of courage and conviction and truth. We don't need allies. The only ally we need is the God of Israel. And so but why is he doing it now? Because the political things are changing and now Turkey's already an adversary. So why not? That's what, I'm talking too much.
No, I think there's a new poll out of America that says 50% of Americans think Israel is committing genocide in Gaza, including 77% of Democrats and 51% of independents. And 60% of Americans oppose sending Israel more military aid for use in the Gaza war.
Which that's a counter, totally opposite of what it was before October 7th. So you would expect it after October 7th.
I think that's what's interesting is that like this has steadily increased. And I mean, as far as I know, it has not. Like it's only increased since October 7th.
Well,
so like, why in the world?
Well, I'll tell you why. The people that are in America, they're living their life. They're farmers. They're workers. They're going to jobs, and they hear genocide, 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 genocide,
constant.
And they're like, all right, well, I guess Israel must be committing genocide because that's all I'm hearing in the news. And what they're not seeing in the news, I just saw this clip of what Egypt has done on its border. Check this out. So you see, there's now 40,000 new Egyptian soldiers that are there. There's 4 different layers of electric fences, of these fences, preventing Gazans from escaping Gaza City. And the world is saying there's genocide. Why is there no pressure on Egypt to just allow people like in every conflicted area to just escape? And maybe the moral clarity isn't with the nations. It really could be that the nations are just stacked against Israel because they're against Israel fundamentally. And there's no logic and there's no reason. It's just an intuitive hatred that they have. I mean, 24% of the world right now are naturally aligned with an Islamic cause because they themselves are Muslim. Wow. So they don't necessarily have to line up their logic saying there's genocide over there and blaming Egypt or blaming anyone. They're just going to be against Israel because we live in the land of Israel, proving to the world that the God of Israel is with us.
Well, my only problem with that is that it removes the agency, right? When people say these Gazans are monsters and they're zombies, no, they're not. They're human beings and they have agency, and the nations of the world have agency. And to say that they're just against us because they're against us because that's how this needs to go, I don't know if that's true. I think that there is a spirit of turning against Israel because of the fact that you have to come to terms with the fact that either the God of Israel is real and true, and this nation that should be wiped off the map is not only not wiped off the map, but disproportionately, exponentially disproportionately strong and powerful and resilient and shines a light in this world of darkness. So either the God of Israel is true or not true. And I feel like there's a strong impulse in the heart of the nations right now to turn against Israel. You see, even Megyn Kelly is starting to like Megyn, no, not Megyn, not our Megyn Kelly, right? And Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, and there's this whole right-wing people that used to be with us, right? And so there's a strong impulse. Even Ambassador Huckabee, he tripped up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, what he did there was not, I don't think, the right thing to do. Even if he had a real grievance in a world like this where the whole world is turning against Israel, take it behind closed doors, talk to the prime minister, work it out. So there is an impulse to turn against Israel, but this is an opportunity for those with character and conviction and faith to really attach themselves to the house of Israel. Go ahead.
So I really agree with that. I want to really go down to the core of the issue. What is the spirit that is overwhelming people to turn against Israel?
Yeah.
And I think that maybe the answer can be found in the shooting in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
I think that
That's exactly what I
actually
was
goes
thinking.
to the heart of it, because it's not just an Islamic war. There is something fundamental that's happening. And this shooting in Minneapolis had "Burn Israel, Israel must fall, where is your God?" like written on the gun
6
that shot
million
these
was
children.
not enough.
6 million was not enough. So what is going on that people that would commit such a heinous act, killing children in the middle of their prayers, what is going on that they're also the ones that want Israel to burn? Like, something is going on here that I think if we really go to the heart of the issue, we can actually like tap at something true. What do you think?
No, so I have regarding the shooting in America, and I think this, to me, it's more of like, it's a warning for the nation, specifically America, because I think, you know, at some level, we're all Americans born in America. We're very much American Christian Zionists. Josh and I are. You guys were born in America as well. But I think it's a wake-up call, and I think it should be a warning. But I just want to give like a little bit of background on the shooting, just so people know what happened. A 22-year-old biological male pretending to be a female. I'm not going to call him ever. The news is all calling it a she or whatever. A guy killed 2 children, wounded 17 others. 14 of the wounded are children, at least 2 of them in critical condition. So he shot 19 people.
He was targeting children. I think on one of the
specifically
magazines
was targeting children.
It actually said for the
So
children.
I actually read his manifesto this morning, which is basically his journal entries. It was awful, horrific stuff. And no, he specifically said, I want to target children because I think if I try to target adults, I'll get taken out faster. I think I can kill more people if I target children. So he went to, this is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, just happened last night, to a Catholic church, the Annunciation Catholic Church, where his mom worked, actually. And it was like a children's mass prayer service. But in his manifesto, I came across this myself. He said at one point, and I don't know how, you know, because he's been planning this for years, he said, I'm having a hard time coming up with why I want to commit a mass shooting. And then he said, if I do carry out something rash, motivations would most likely be against filthy Zionist Jews. I hate those entitled, penny-pinching, blank, free Palestine. And if I could take my pick, I would shoot up a Jewish synagogue, an African-American Mexican immigrant school, or just
He said African-American?
just a synagogue.
I don't know why I just seized on that. It just seems weird for him to all of a sudden be politically correct.
But here's what's strange, right? Obviously, he wants to target some kind of minority group. But first, he says a Jewish synagogue. Then he throws out some other minority groups, and then he ends with, or just a synagogue, right? And then he ends up targeting a Christian Catholic church.
That's what doesn't
right?
make sense to me about
But
this.
all over his weapons, like Jeremy's saying, kill Donald Trump, extra Jew gas, Israel must fall, kill Trump now, burn Israel, 6 million wasn't enough, and a ton of other racist slurs and statements and threats and things like that. So whoever this guy is, and I don't even really want to mention his name, like we don't give glory to the attacker, right? Whoever he is, he's a messed up, horrible individual, underwent transgender surgery. There's a whole argument there, of what happened. But whoever he is, like, in whatever motive he was looking for, he automatically landed on target the Jews, target that synagogue. And ultimately he targeted a church, which I think is really interesting.
Yes, there's some kind of reason.
This is why I think America needs a warning, and the nations need a warning. Just some responses. Jake Shields, I saw already posted that that's a Mossad false flag event. He also claimed that it was a Jew who shot children, which is a ridiculous claim. Candace Owens already claiming that the government orchestrated the event. So there's like, wow, and everybody's like, wake up, Americans, but for the wrong reasons. They're saying, wake up, the government's conspiring against you. Wake up, it's the Jews. Wake up, it's the Mossad. That's the wrong warning, I think, because I think the actual warning is the nations in America are now believing the lie unilaterally, and the percentage of people who are, believe Israel's committing genocide is just going up every single month. Like, what happens when we get to 90% of Americans believe Israel's committing genocide or whatever? Mm-hmm. And at the same time, that rhetoric and that radicalism is fueling these messed up individuals, transgender, teenagers who then turn into a 20-year-old that goes and attacks a Christian church, specifically trying to kill as many children as possible. And I guess the point is radicalism is rising in America, but people, and instead of people trying to wake up and warn America that, conspiracy theories, it's the Jews, it's the government, whatever, they need to be looking inside of themselves. Where is this radicalism coming from? And I think it's coming from the world turning against Israel, which ultimately is turning against the God of Israel, which is the only one true God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
So, but I'm confused about this attack though, because why, if he's got this all of his gun, why he's obviously motivated in a Jew-hating way, why does he go attack Christians?
And you guys can tell me what you think. I mean, you can disagree with me with whatever, but I think he wanted to attack Jews, but ultimately that led him down the path of attacking anybody that believes in the Bible, anybody that professes to be a Bible believer or a believer in the God of Abraham. I mean, we could say, as a Catholic church, we're not Catholic, who knows, whatever. But this guy doesn't know that. And if you read in his journals or whatever, he was looking for a motive. He was like, what can I target? What can be my motive? I'm a messed up, individual, and I'm just looking for that motive. And automatically it's the Jews in Israel, the Zionists, right? But that led him to the path of anybody that believes in God.
I'm more concerned about the Ilana Omar saying that guns are the problem. That's what she said.
Well,
she said, as soon as you love your children more than you love your guns, then we can get America back to a good spot. Basically, that's what she said.
Well, if you look on the shooter's gun, it's just really telling.
Yeah.
First, it says, burn Israel, 6 million wasn't enough. There's a certain obsession with the Jews. But then one of the things that was written there is, where is your God? And that's, I think, what answers your
he wrote
question.
that.
He wrote that on the gun. Where is your God now? Because Houthi is killing children in the middle of their prayers. And so it was really a fundamental attack against God, a man who really hated life. And I feel like right there, that's the connection. I mean, the Hamas and the jihadists say all the time, we don't worship life, we worship death. We hate life. This is a world that is not worth living. And this person was such an evil, twisted person. It's like, where is your God now? He's like a rage against God, a rage against life. And there's literally two forces that are at play now, a force of death and chaos and destruction. And then there's a force of life and blessing and goodness. And those two worlds, that's how queers for Palestine and transgender are marching with the Hamas, who would happily throw them off the roof of it's how do those two go together?
I saw a parade video of exactly that. It was goth looking with the eagle's beak and transgender, with all of them with Palestinian flags. It's what is going on? All I know is that that's the wrong side of history, right? You don't want to be in that thing, and whatever intersectional thing is happening
just so
there.
Dumb. These people, do they have no understanding at all that if that march was replicated in Gaza or an Arab town in Judea and Samaria, they would all be thrown off a building?
No, but I think that's really the point. Meaning they literally don't care.
They don't
what
care.
they see is, these people are causing a lot of death. These people are taking hostages and
Chaos,
starving. They're
godlessness,
causing
death.
chaos.
They're
exactly.
allies in the greater picture. They're allies in the greater war
destruction.
against God, which is why I can't help. Maybe it's just the way my brain is wired, but I think there's something deeply Jewish about it that we need to look and say, is there some sort of subconscious, deep resentment among these nations that hate us so much that has some validity to it? That we're not shining that light from Zion to the world, and they're hating us because that's our job. And they're so thirsty. They're like, why are you not? It's, of course, very deeply subconscious. It's from the deepest spiritual roots. But I can't help but to take a little bit, at least, of the blame on myself and feel like, when are we going to finally broadcast that frequency of light and love and blessing to all of humanity?
Right.
But maybe light, love, and blessing is actually eviscerating the evil. Meaning, had we ended the war on October 10th, we took 2 days to recover, and we saw that there was a people that elected the Hamas, that supported the Hamas, that have been indoctrinated by the Hamas, Hamas television, Hamas schools. Okay, this is a society no different than Sodom and Gomorrah. This just needs to be ended right now. And we ended the war in 3 days. That would have been, and the world would have respected us for it. And instead, we're just a 2-year war, and the world is saying genocide because they're just blaming us for whatever they can blame us for.
And that's the reason I think we're all together here. Because what's happening is taking us back pre-days of really Jews. It's taking us back to the time of Abraham, right? Abraham looked at Sodom. And what was his first impulse? His first impulse was to pray for them, to love them. His prayer for them came from love for them. Everything that we do needs to come from love. Abraham also went to war and slayed thousands with his own hands. But if he prayed for them and loved them, then we can only assume that him going to war against them, fighting them, and even killing them was also from a place of love and compassion for them. If the Western mind can even comprehend such a thing. But it is better to be killed than to live a life of such dark depths of evil depravity that in the world of truth, they would thank him for doing that. And so that's why I think we were just talking about, who was it? Some influencer. He's like very Christian, even like evangelist Christian, whatever it is, but he loves Israel. When I hear that, I'm like, you know what? In the world we live in today, if he loves Israel so much that he's suffering for it, and he's not getting because you can't really survive in Hollywood that way. As much as they say, oh, you got to pull the Israel line, that's a joke. It's the opposite of the case. And so if he's suffering and taking hits and sacrificing for Israel, then there's something fundamentally good within him, right? That is willing to suffer and sacrifice for the sake of truth and God. And there's some rabbis that I see that are so thirsty to be perceived as virtuous that they're even willing to do things that are against their own nation and their own people. They have this unquenchable thirst for the nations of the world to love them. So that's what it really comes down to. Are you Abrahamic? Which means Avram one side of the world, the rest of the world is on the other side. Are you willing to be alone? And that's what it comes down to.
I want to say one more thing on that note about the mass shooting in Minneapolis. And this is why I think it should be a warning, because here's how I look at it. If you're like during the Holocaust, if you were Jewish, but you tried to not be a Jew, were you saved? Like they were still not saved, right? Like, meaning if they tried to convert to Christianity, pretend to be a Gentile, whatever, they were still not saved. Jews were not, right? I think the same things will happen in America for Jews and for Christians, meaning you could be Catholic, Greek Orthodox, evangelical Christian, Protestant, whatever. You could be anti-Israel. You might be one of these ones that are pro-Palestine and still Christian. I think the time will come in America where you still won't be saved. You might be Jewish, but a complete liberal, anti-Israel. Like you're saying, there's a petition now been signed by a bunch of Jewish rabbis.
There's plenty of petitions by rabbis.
Right.
But the fact that many of them were Orthodox rabbis is what made it so noteworthy. But I think
my point is, my thought and why this should be a warning in a way, Paul, is maybe you're believing the lies. Maybe you're believing all these radical right-wing influencers now, and you're going down that rabbit hole, but you're still, in name Christian or Catholic or Jewish. But at the end of the day, I think, they say first the Saturday people, then the Sunday people. I think radical extremism that's now overtaking America and so much of the world is still coming for you. You might be trying to hide yourself. You might be trying to blend in. You might be trying to assimilate. You might be trying to fit in, and it's not going to work. And I think that's kind of what I was taking away from this, and why, if you're Jewish, the only place that's safe is in Israel. And if you're Christian, then I believe the only place that's safe is also coming to Israel, but standing with Israel, which everybody gets all up in arms. What are you advocating for? Unconditionally supporting the government of Israel? No, it doesn't mean supporting the government of Israel. It means standing with the land, the people, ultimately the God of Israel, which is the only true God.
I just want to push a little bit back, Luke, because I was just talking, you were mentioning Nate Buzz, the Hollywood actor that now has gone so pro-Israel. He's got so much out there. He was just with us yesterday. I think he's coming down to visit you guys as well down at the farm. He just told me he feels like and he's highly connected, obviously, with the Israel narrative. He's in America. He's deeply connected to what's happening. He said he feels deeply that the next wave of violent Jew hatred will come from Christians. He really feels like that. I tend to agree with him. So in the picture you just painted, yes, there seems to be a reality of the people walking together in these parades. Why are they united together when that makes no sense? So Christians that are uniting together with these people, that doesn't mean they're on target with them. And maybe somehow there's going to be some sort of, I don't know if the picture is exactly correct, because I believe the Christians themselves are the ones that are going to be initiating this fight against Israel in mass on what we see even rising now.
I agree with you, but I also think at the end of the day, they're also not going to be safe because who's the one that's trying to take over the world right now?
Yeah, just
It's
as safe as
radical
all these
Islamic
lefties
jihad.
are walking with the
when the
jihadists.
Christian, there might be a massive wave of Christians and attacking the Jewish people, and at the end of the day,
They're also going to be victim
going
of
to be
the
lost.
jihad
Well, to me,
attacks.
here's what's happening. There's Orthodox rabbis that are siding against Israel. There are Christians that are siding.
Yeah.
There are Catholics that are being shot because of the transgender.
right.
I mean, it has nothing to do at this point with religion or theology. It's going to boil down to the God of Israel.
Yep,
There's
that's
going to
right.
be one God and one people that stand together, and it will transcend religion. It will transcend theology. It will just be the people of life, the people of light against the people of darkness. And that's literally what we're actually witnessing it unfold. And the way to know that is that when evil arises in the world, it immediately attacks the Jew. That's perhaps what we were chosen for, is to be like the immune system that immediately, whenever the Nazis start to rise to power, they start systematically killing the Jews. It got to Pearl Harbor, but it started with the Jews first. I mean, jihad started bursting into the world. It got to 9/11, but buses were blowing up in Israel way before 9/11. So it attacks the Jew first, but when evil spreads, it spreads throughout. And Israel is just sort of like the canary that's like letting the world know, it's getting ugly. And so now it's happening in America to Catholic churches. It's like signs are up now.
On that same note, this is just so fascinating to me because it seems like the very evil, the jihad, right, the holy war, somehow have these antennas to read spiritual things in the world. That's really uncanny, because you would think those evil, dark brutes that are causing the worst atrocities in the world would be so brutal that they would have no keenness to any holiness whatsoever. But Jeremy, you just told me that they put out this article saying the deepest weapon of the Jews is their shofar.
The
So
shofar is the
sometimes
most dangerous tool used to assert sovereignty in Israel.
Is that literally
According to
That's the direct quote.
according to the Palestinian Authority, right?
Palestinian Authority. The shofar is the most dangerous tool used to assert sovereignty in Israel.
They still talk about that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they come up with the deepest, most spiritual things that you're like,
Really? They declared the war because of the red heifer?
yeah, they did
Yeah,
that
that's
too.
exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
That's the idea. But I think it's because they recognize that this whole thing isn't political. I always get annoyed. Oh, it's political and it's about the independent state, and it's not about any of that. They're the first ones to tell you it's not about that. They're not afraid of us blowing the shofar on the Temple Mount. By the way, let's show the video of the shofar being blown on the Temple Mount and what that means. And they're so enraged about it because they recognize it's not a political tool of declaring Israeli sovereignty. It's a spiritual tool declaring the sovereignty of the God of Israel. That's what the shofar does.
How do
That's
they
what
know
it's-
that?
They know it.
Yeah.
They feel it. Because they feel it.
Yeah.
They feel when it happens that it's weakening them much more than anything else possibly could. That's the root. That's the heart of what this whole thing is about.
Well, if we realize that this war is a spiritual war and they happen to be on the other side of the people of Israel, then everything is through the paradigm of spirituality. They see the shofar as a tool against them. They see the red heifer as a tool against them. They named the war the Al-Aqsa flood. That is the flood of the Temple Mount. Everything to them is seen through the paradigm of spirituality. It's just from the other side. And if we actually recognized that this war is a spiritual war and the only way to put an end to the war is a spiritual solution, then the real answer is we have to build the temple on the Temple Mount to put an end to that theology. To say like, this is done, a house of prayer for all nations. This is God's house and he's sovereign. That would actually put an end to the war. It's really the only solution. So our enemies have in some way been programmed to push us ultimately to that conclusion, because it's not going to stop until we do it.
Yeah. What is the shofar? It's just a hollow ram's horn, yet it shakes governments. It sends a shiver down the spine of the global jihad. Right? What does the prophet Zechariah say? Lo b'chayil v'lo b'koch ki im beruchi amar Hashem. It will not be by power or by might, but by my spirit. So we need to do everything we need to do as a soldier to go out and be willing to fight and sacrifice and give our lives to battle the forces of darkness. But in the end, it's going to be the blast of the shofar that brings the walls down.
So there's two axes that I really see forming. And maybe this will help clear it up for everybody, because it really doesn't make sense to me how somebody that would align with this jihadist world takeover. And when you say jihad, I think it's just, it even illuminates this even more. It is a holy war, just like we're talking about here. So now that you have this jihad, there's two sides. There's just really two sides. There's one that stands with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the people of Israel. That's who you represent. That's who the people of Israel are, whether they're in Tel Aviv or they're not. The people that are back in the land of Israel are representing some. Even the people that are not back in the land are still representing it, right? They're still carrying it. Jewish people across the world. And they're going to be the target of the other axis. The other axis is against that. It's just the line is not about, like you said, Jeremy, it's not about whether you're Christian or Muslim, whatever, all these different whatever you are in the world and all these little inner fightings. The line is becoming very clear. Where do you stand? Do you stand with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the promises he made to the people of Israel, or do you not?
It sounds so much better when you sing it.
I know. I was just thinking about it.
I was thinking just this last week, I read there are two inventions that Israel just came up with. One was to replace the spinal cord to allow paralyzed people to walk. And one is something with the cornea that allows blind people to see. And it's like in the middle of all this war and all this chaos, Israel is just continuing to bring blessing to the world. But there are people that don't want to bring blessing to the world. They want to bring chaos, death, and destruction to the world. And they're saying, well, what is the force here that's bringing the most chaos, death, and destruction? Oh, it's the jihad. All right. Well, I'm going to align with them because they're bringing the death and the destruction to the world. And that's really what this is about. Who are the people that will bring blessing to the world and who are the people that are going to bring destruction to the world?
And it's also ultimately, we've said this before, but it's so true. It's a test of faith where you really stand. Jeremy said it beautifully. This isn't about religion, right? We have rabbis that are coming in and siding ultimately with this petition, siding with Hamas, not talking about the hostages, not talking about truth. There's a fear. In Germany, there was the Association of German National Jews. Do you know who these were? This was a very significant political group of Jews that rejected Zionism, supported the Nazi Party, somehow believed that they could dodge or avoid Jewish destiny that they felt coming because of the millennia of patterns that have happened in every place we go. And so if we side with Hitler, we're not going to end up exactly where they ended up. In Auschwitz, right next to every other Jew. You can't avoid it. You can't dodge it. It's who you are. But there's this belief, this futile belief, that if we just side with darkness, that we'll be safe. And this is not a time to be thinking about ourselves, thinking about our own, are we going to be okay, to be safe? We need to have such a passionate, clear desire to bring God's light to the world that we don't have that extra mental space to think, what about me and how am I going to do? And God will take care of us.
That's right, yeah. No, I think it's just so interesting that every time the enemies of Israel always recognize these like obscure sounding things that nobody's ever heard of as being the main thing of their target, meaning like when the war broke out, they called it the Al-Aqsa flood because they recognize that building the temple would bring world peace. And they say, the war is all about the red heifers. Like whoever cares about the red heifers? A lot of people, but it's a red cow. Israel's trying to find a red cow so that the temple can be rebuilt because the enemies of Israel recognize this would be a key element of world peace. And now they're all up in arms about the shofar because it's the month of Elul and the Jewish people are blowing the shofar every day, right? And they're saying this is the most dangerous tool that Israel has to assert sovereignty because the enemies of Israel recognize that's a key element to bringing world peace.
The shofar's being blown every morning right now.
Every morning. And what's so ironic about that is that you hear the Moazin in Har Bracha, you hear the Moazin at the farm, and it's like there's a little horn that like the Jews are blowing. There's no microphone.
About what that is, though. That's the Arab prayers.
Yeah, the Moazin is like the Arab blaster.
Israel,
blasting.
And by the way,
it
it wakes everybody up in all of our village and where we are.
It goes off at 4 a.m.
Yeah, but you know what? There should be some law that if they're going to do it, it has to be a real guy. There has to be someone on their side that actually gets up at 4 a.m. to do it. It can't just be an automatic alarm system that goes off.
But like
this
Jeremy's
is a conversation
saying,
they're having in Michigan now,
like
too,
you're
right?
saying, there's probably there's hundreds, if not maybe 1,000 mosques that are blasting 5 times a day. Nobody in Israel does not hear the Arab prayers, right? And yet 1 month out of the Jewish calendar, one guy blows the shofar every morning, and the world's up in arms that now Israel's
dangerous too.
I remember the complaints from a lot of the Arab villages because Jewish villages, 18 minutes before the Sabbath begins, there's a horn that sounds me,
right,
literally that loud,
that
long for 1 millisecond.
Just to remind everybody.
Just reminding people
Shabbat is 18 minutes away. It's a very nice warning. It's like, oh, heads up, you heard the horn. No. That is coercion. That is no, it's intolerable. Meanwhile, 5 times a day, and it's like what I'm waiting for is that the lion within the nation of Israel to arise and just say, where is our righteous indignation?
Right.
Where we're so enraged when I think about October 7th and then I think about making a deal with Hamas. I don't care if the deal is the best deal for Israel and the worst deal for them. To look them in, to shake a hand, to sign a document, how dare we even entertain that thought? Wipe them off the face of the earth, and if the world doesn't like it, then we'll just stand alone. But true is true. This is the daughters of Israel.
I think it's really interesting that just this week I saw unearthed a coin that I'd never seen before from the days of Bar Kokhba, which was like the last Jewish rebellion in Judea. And it was a coin with a picture of the temple. Really? And I'd never seen a coin like that before. Here, check it out. And so if we want a reminder of what this is all about and what this war is all about, unearthed from the ground in Jerusalem is the reminder of why we're here and what our purpose is. And it's to literally build a dwelling place for God in the world.
Talking about ram's horns, it reminded me, so many things get taken out of context around here. There was literally a goat with one of these farmers locally here, He's trying to get his sheep to the water.
Maybe you should tell what the viral, what most people think happened first, what the viral video was, and then you could tell the story. Then you could tell the real story.
Okay, here we go. Viral.
This could be a YouTube short.
Okay, here we go. YouTube shorts. The Jews have now, the blood libel against the Jews is that they're contaminating the Arab wells.
Poisoning them.
Poisoning. How do they do it? They take their sheep herds over and their goat herds, and they throw them into the water to contaminate
throwing
the well.
A goat in the well?
Yeah, throwing a goat in the well to contaminate the well. This is the libel. Okay. What is the real story? Because if you wanted to contaminate your neighbor Arab water wells, who's using a well
Obviously,
anyway?
you would throw a goat in there.
Obviously, if you want to contaminate, you would throw a goat in there. That would be the way you would do it. Oh my gracious. Literally, this got millions of views across the world. What happened? It's one of the farmers here was bringing his flock up to this cistern of this little well to water his flock. One of the goats have a mind, as farmers know, of their very, very own. And he literally was very thirsty, jumped straight into the cistern that was 3 meters deep, 15 feet or so. They had to get ropes and pull this goat up out of this cistern. Well, but when they took it out, they thought it was funny. They took a video of these Jewish farmers pulling this goat back up out of this cistern. It went viral in global anti-Semitism libel that's the new way the Jews were contaminating the Arab wells. Is that not stupidity? But literally, they buy that thing. And for me, the best of me is to say, surely that didn't go viral where people were actually believing that Jews were poisoning wells again.
Is there no better way to poison wells than that?
I'm just picturing the story on Candace Owens.
That's what they blamed for you for.
You want to bet that Candace Owens is going to put it on one of her shows?
I even remember when I was in the army and there was the night vision evidence of other things that some of them are doing with goats. I think that this is the least of their concern of the goats getting in the wells.
Well, here's the deal about the world and things going viral. We've been dealing with Qatar now for 2 years to try to negotiate some sort of deal with the Hamas to release the hostages. And the editor of the Qatari newspaper just said the heroes of Hamas should go and kidnap more people, more Jews. So the editor of their newspaper, that's really the one that decides what stories go in, what stories go out, what the angle of every story is. He himself writes an op-ed encouraging more kidnappings while they're the brokers for dealing with the kidnappings. It's absolutely absurd. So at some point, Israel has to just stand alone already. It's taking so long. When are we going to internalize that we can't look at the world, we can't look at Qatar, we can't look at America, we just have to do what we need to do, period.
I don't think a lot of people realize that Qatar could literally order Hamas to release the hostages and it would probably happen.
They did.
It would definitively happen.
Trump actually said release the American hostage, and they did.
But my question is why are we still treating Qatar like an ally? Why is Trump trying to
because
make
there are
them one
real
of the
voices in
ally?
America. Play this clip of Tucker Carlson and his how he contends with this issue.
America's supporting Israel because it's an ally. I don't even know what those words mean. I'm just saying my principle
they're
is
an ally, right? I mean, they
I
both
don't know what that
describe it-
means to be an ally.
Qatar is like one of our closest allies in the world. The largest American air base in the Middle East is in Qatar. They're a close ally of ours.
So it's important to understand that these reasonable sounding right-wing conservative voices in America that are coming against Israel in this sort of
Used to be
nuanced-
reasonable.
Yeah, it's getting more and more extreme. They're coming more and more out of the closet and revealing themselves. You have to understand that they are proactively actually supporting Hamas, not just cooperating with them, that Hamas gives them the layup and then they do their part and they slam dunk it. That Hamas says when Israel drops leaflets, get out of this area because there's terrorists there, we're going to bomb, and then they send in all the kids. And then they send those videos to American media that are more than happy to put it all over. So they're working together, but more than working together. They're actually they're in the same army. They're in the same army.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is telling. We're talking about different access points here. And these people in America have actually joined, and Tucker can be a little bit right there. If he's talking about, it's unfortunate, but there's so many people that have literally joined the other axis that don't see Israel as the ally, that literally see Qatar as the future. That's scary to me. Like really scary. I totally disagree with it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people in
I think
America.
there's a dividing line in America, and people are going to have to choose, because we know all nations are coming against Israel, going to stand against Jerusalem. The question is, I think there's 340 million people in America. People are, we're almost past the decision point. They got to choose now where they're going to stand, with or against the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
When Trump was elected, I was like, oh, finally, we're going to have some peace and quiet. Finally, the Republican Party, they're going to be strong. They're going to have Congress. We're going to have 4 years of peace and prosperity. Everyone's going to be backing Israel now. And now we're saying like the exact opposite of it. I don't think the Republican Party, the conservative movement within America, has ever been this fractured, where so many people in the conservative movement are now turning their backs on Israel. And that is just such a lesson that we have no one to rely on other than God.
Without America, what other allies do we have here?
Exactly. Wake
I haven't
up.
heard anything about
Exactly.
Micronesia
That is
recently.
that is exactly the place that we are destined to be, and that let's just choose it already. Let's choose our destiny.
Which is what I want to say to you, Joshua. I was just thinking, you said, I'm terrified of that. I'm really afraid of that. What is it you were necessarily afraid of? Because I understand the visceral reaction to seeing that those standing with Israel in America is going smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. There's something scary about that, but there's also something inherently biblical about that. That's part of Jewish destiny. That's part of redemptive destiny, right? What stands out to me the most, I just want to make sure I got it right, was in the times of Gideon, right? The Lord said to Gideon, Hashem said to Gideon, the people with you are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel boast and say, my own hand has saved me.
That's right.
Yeah, you're too many to win. You have to be, when you go out to war against your enemies, even though they're much larger than yours, you shall not be afraid of them, because it's for me, for the Lord your God, I am with you. That's what this is all about. So it's destined to be, what God is doing is he's creating, he's providing an opportunity for those that truly have faith in him to stand with him.
That's right.
And so we're going to be
no other
outnumbered,
place, yeah.
and the remnant. And now it's like, so sometimes when you're down in life, you see who your real friends are. That's what's happening in Israel, with Israel today. We're looking around and we're seeing who our real friends are.
That's right.
I think if I was to really boil this down, what am I really actually afraid of for America? And that's the real concern is that they are really, if they choose the opposite, the blessing I'll bless you and cursing I'll curse you. That's live. That's happened all over the world. I'm not concerned for myself, for people that are already joining Israel, which most of the world, that's the most ridiculous thing ever to say. Because if you're looking at the natural eyes, that's the worst possible team to be on. The whole world is ganging up against Israel. Everybody, including, and if American support's wavering, what a team to join. When the whole world's, when Russia and North Korea and China and the U.S. is teetering on support, bad team to join. But because we're people of faith, of course we want to join the Jewish people. We want to join the nation of Israel. What scares me is that there's so many people. I'm scared for America. Because I'm not scared for Israel. That's just my view. I'm just not. not scared for Israel at all. I know that Israel is going to be saved in the end. That the Jewish people are coming back to the land to build a kingdom. That the Jewish people are coming back to connect to their deep roots, as you said, the temple being rebuilt. It's a great vision. It's going to happen. In America, I don't know. I'm worried that they're going to literally fight against it. And historically, when they fight against the Jews, what happens? That's what I'm worried about. Good.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of friends. You have a lot of friends there. What happens? You see people changing, dropping like flies right now in their support of Israel. What happens when they lose it? When they side with the enemy against Israel?
That's right.
Well, I think that America has been the most blessed country in the world because they treated the Jewish people better than any other country throughout our exile. There's a reason why America is so blessed. And as soon as they turn their backs on Israel and the Jewish people, that blessing will be removed. And I think your fear is totally justified.
I think you're right. Yeah. Jeremy, you always have something from the Torah portion. Also, we just, the Jewish people just entered the month of Elul.
I really feel like the month of Elul is exactly the point of what this Torah and what the message that's going out to the world is right now. The sages of Israel say that Elul literally stands for Ani ledodi vedodi li. I am to my beloved and my beloved is to me. And that's the core relationship that we have with God. It's really to love God because God loves us. And we're going up against a force of hate and destruction. And it's like, can love actually win? And that's what this war is all about. Will our love outshine the hatred and the darkness and the chaos and the forces of jihad and the forces of the shooters in Minneapolis? And that is the living testimony. The living testimony of Israel is that all the pogroms and the Holocaust and the persecution and the communists, the Jews wake up every morning and we say you should love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your might. And we're a living testimony that no one has been through the challenges that Israel has been through and for so long. And yet still we wake up every morning and saying, yes, we love life and we want to bring blessing to the world. And that blessing will overcome the curses no matter who joins the other axis. It'll be a small army, but that small army of King David is going to redeem and save the entire world.
Amen. Have you seen these pictures popping up all over the highways now, pointing to the house of God?
Yes.
I was just talking about that. I want to give that guy a prize. Whoever's putting it up, he deserves some sort of...
I want our watchers, listeners to watch it. This is what you drive throughout Judea, Samaria, Israel. All of a sudden, it's not a sign that says... arrow to Jerusalem, but it says arrow to Har Hashem, to the house, to the mountain of the house of God. That's what it says.
And these are like actual road signs too. Like,
and they look very official like road signs. Yeah,
it's not like a sticker or something like that.
The first time I'm like traveling the roads of Israel, and I feel like I'm in biblical times. When I see that sign, it's perfect. It's like the state park sign too.
I just
love
that.
It's amazing. It's like, this is coming.
It's very interesting times. Could be scary times, but also really special, exciting times too.
That's right.
And the message is, guys, you got to decide where you're going to stand. So good to be back with everyone this week. Hopefully we'll be back again, God willing, next week. So guys, make sure you stay tuned. Check out Jeremy and Ari at thelandofisrael.com. Check out their fellowship, all the other videos and everything they put out on social media, thelandofisrael.com. We'll have their link in the description below. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on next week's podcast and all of our other videos. And as always, stop listening to the lies and propaganda and connect with the truth of what's happening in the land of Israel. We'll be back soon here at The Israel Guys.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Bringing this accurate information about what is happening in Israel and in the Middle East like we do in these videos, it isn't easy and it's not cheap. And we would like to ask you, if you find value in this channel and the information we are bringing to the world every week, please consider joining our team and producing these videos by supporting us monthly. If you're able to do this, we have a special access Telegram group that's behind the scenes content, updates on our volunteer work in Israel, special store discounts, prayer requests, and more, specifically for our monthly donor team. If you want to join us, you can go to theisraelguys.com/donate or just click the link in the description below.